and welcome back to Cityline. In this segment, I have two individuals who never stop when it comes to providing services at the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center. And I want to say Crystal Judson Family Justice Center is a one-stop shop. It is the Nordstrom's of, I always say, of a domestic violence center. So let's find out who these people are. Please join me in welcoming Amy McIntyre. You are a victim services supervisor. Say that 10 times. For the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. You brought with you Andrea Saunders. Good morning, my dear.
Good morning.
You are the managing attorney for the Family Safety Project. Welcome to Cityline, my dear.
Thank you.
So let's just get into it because there's so much. As we said, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So Amy, tell us what the team does at the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center.
Yeah, so we provide safe and free and confidential advocacy services to survivors of intimate partner violence, domestic violence. The idea of the services is to interrupt the cycle and the power and the control that's found in domestic violence. We know that that is often the one thing that people struggle with is that power and control. So we have multiple programs there that are designed to interrupt all of that. Much of that includes safety planning, support through protection orders, connection to different resources, and community services. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to connecting into services, we support people where they're at in their journey, and people can choose what and how long they interact in our services.
I love that. And I got to say, your Justice Center has everything you could possibly need in it. And that's important because when somebody walks in, they don't, if they are fleeing a situation and are fleeing on foot or just had an Uber drop them off, traditionally they would be going to several places, even a decade ago. But you have everything right there that they could possibly need. So Andrea, when we think about that, what is civil legal aid and what does Tacoma Pro Bono Community Lawyers provide?
So Tacoma Pro Bono Community Lawyers is a regional small civil legal aid office in our community. And civil legal aid is a way that individuals who otherwise couldn't afford an attorney can access legal advice, representation, consultation for their legal issues. We have a right in our country to be represented in the legal system, but it's really only specific cases where that right is guaranteed to you even if you can't afford your own lawyer. And so we see a huge amount of individuals who are facing family law issues, domestic violence, custody, and all of the myriad of consequences that come from those that can't afford an attorney. And so civil legal aid tries to fill that gap, providing professional services to those who otherwise maybe would go without.
And this seems like a real silly question, but I'm going to ask this because I'm really interested in what you have to say. Why is this partnership so important? And Amy, I'm going to start with you on that because it seems like it's a match made in heaven, but there's got to be a real strong need there in order for this to come to fruition.
Yeah, so the partnership was really designed with this idea of getting people a warm handoff to the civil legal aid that's so needed in our community. And not only a handoff, but to somebody that really knows the nuances of domestic violence, that can really help a person through their journey in this trauma-informed way, in a caring way. And we know that abusers often have the control of finances, which really gives them that leg up in the legal realm. And so being able to support people and get them connected to that service that is so needed is really vital in their journey, in their safety, and their progress.
Oh, well said. So Andrea, what is this Family Safety Project?
So this is building on a partnership that's been in place for several years between Tacoma Pro Bono and the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center, where we would receive direct referrals and help support and provide services to their clients. And so within the past year and a half, we've been able to really like solidify that model,
Wow.
add a little bit more staffing and a little bit more structure to build on what was already going on. So our team provides direct services like we had talked about, really hoping to increase the depth of legal services that survivors can access, and the coordination with advocates.
So when you think about attorneys and advocates coming together, even just looking about them separately, they are definitely individuals that keep a lot of plates spinning. How do you follow up with those partnerships? How do you make that work when you have two people or two functions that are so busy?
A lot of communication.
Yes.
And a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of cases where we will receive a referral and we don't need to touch base, or we touch base very limited. But the strength of having relationships and communication in place is that for clients who have a lot of barriers, a lot of our clients have barriers,
Yes.
but have a significant amount, we can kind of adapt and do a little bit more together to help support that individual where they are.
That's right, because two heads are better than one. Amy, sometimes we make assumptions about survivors of domestic violence. We all have them in our head. Is there a myth around survivors or domestic violence that you'd like to debunk at this point?
I think that there's no perfect survivor.
Yeah.
There's no perfect anybody. Survivors are human, and leaving an abusive situation is a process. It is difficult, it is complicated, and because we are human and because things are difficult, sometimes people make decisions and choices that we might not agree with, that we might not understand. But it is really imperative that we help people make those choices on their own and support them through it, and
So
just listen.
Yeah, and just listen. And that leads me to, as we are listening to those who are experiencing domestic violence, what tips or advice would you give someone if they have a loved one who is in this situation? Because that's, to me, I mean, I've been in that situation with a loved one, and it is excruciating.
Yeah, I think sadly we all have had a loved one in our life go through it. And I think that listening and believing them is the very first thing.
There it is.
It's believing them, and then it's, again, back to the allowing them to make their own choices, and reminding ourselves that if we know a loved one that's gone through it, we likely know an abusive person.
Yeah.
Because we
Oh, wow.
usually know both sides. And I think that we don't think about it that way. But if we think about it that we know the person who's experiencing it, we oftentimes know the person that's doing it. And
Absolutely.
it's important that we are there for the person that's surviving it, and we let them make those choices, and we support them even if we don't necessarily agree with it.
There we go, absolutely. Because everybody has their journey on this. And it's their journey, not our journey, in the sense of being there to be that caregiver or being there when they're ready as well. Andrea, what can folks do to support survivors who access your services and support your agency?
Well, first regarding supporting survivors directly, what I've seen in my practice and working with survivors is that even after a decision is made to leave and to end a relationship, if they are accessing the court system, it can be grueling. And so just for those who may have someone in their lives that's going through this, knowing that that process in and of itself is very difficult, and is a time when a survivor needs a lot of just family and friend support. Tacoma Pro Bono is a nonprofit entity, and we operate on a really slim budget. And so we are always welcoming financial donations so that we can increase the quality of the program and the services that we can provide. And also for attorneys who are listening, if they have thought about doing pro bono work, didn't know how to get into it or didn't know how to access that, we have a whole volunteer legal program where legal professionals, including LLTs, limited license legal technicians, can come and donate their time and their expertise to our clients.
As we're on this topic, are there changes to domestic violence laws that our viewers should know about? Because during COVID, all the information just went underground, and we were doing the best we could do. Has anything changed that we should know, Andrea?
Yeah, over the past couple of years, the laws that govern civil protection orders, I might call them CPOs or DVPOs for domestic violence protection orders, were completely revamped. And so those in large part went into effect in July 2022. Several changes. I could talk about that for a really long time.
Yes.
But one of the ones that I wanted to highlight today was the amendments and the changes to how we even define domestic violence in the state of Washington. So previous to this new legislation, it's really focused on physical harm, physical injury. And we know as providers, and the public health research backs this up, that physical assault is like the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And so included now in the definition of domestic violence is coercive control. That really encompasses things like confinement, isolation, financial abuse. And so those things can be found to the court to constitute domestic violence, which is great.
Yes, that's great, because those are the seeds that lead us to the whole pot,
Yes.
oftentimes, of domestic violence. Last question for you, Amy. October, as we have said, is Domestic Violence Action Month. What actions can people do to support survivors that you can tell us about in this last minute?
There's a couple different things. So I brought a brochure, and it's available on our website. And it is actually a campaign we ran a few years ago. And it's 10 ways you can help a loved one. That is low barrier ways to help someone. And it really walks through different ways. So it's available on our website. The other thing is we're doing a campaign this month on our Facebook. It's 31 Days, 31 Ways. And it's just how to learn about how to support loved ones and your community. And then I would say donate. Again, we operate on a small budget, and we can always use all the toiletries, the soaps and washes, the diapers and wipes, and then money in any form, no matter how small.
I love that. I can't thank you enough for what both of you do for people who are hurting so badly, and for your team. And I hope that both of you have a support system in place, because you have hard days. There are days when you come home and you're still at work. You wake up at 2 in the morning and you are thinking about someone or a case. It is my wish that you have a safe place to land. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Tacoma Community House is going to be in the studio. We'll be right back after this quick break.